This DLC releases on December 19th, the same day as the Avatar Fire and Ash movie. The game follows Sotlek, a very important character in the main game. You'll play exclusively as this character in the DLC, with your character coming in as a companion. And there will be new abilities and skills tied to this character that make it feel like a different experience from the main game. It's an expansion, so not a standalone, so you will need to own the base game to play it. The individual price is $25 USD, but you will be able to purchase it in a bundle. The From the Ashes edition comes with the main game, the DLC, and 3 bonus Ikran cosmetics. That goes for $40 USD. Then the Complete Edition, which has it all, including the 2 previous DLCs, that goes for $60 USD. And honestly, that's a pretty good deal. The 2 DLCs are currently sitting at $20 and $15, so essentially at that price point, you're getting the main game for free. And for those of you who have Ubisoft Plus, the Complete Edition is included in that. This new DLC is said to be approximately 20 hours in length. Of course, that can vary greatly. During the preview event, they gave us about 3 hours to play through 2 story missions. I flew through them in about an hour, but that's just because that's my playstyle. Some of the other people took the whole 3 hours to complete the missions. So obviously it varies quite a bit, but even if you are someone like me who likes to burn through missions, there's plenty of other new things to experience. In fact, that's mostly why I like to go through quests so quickly, because I like to do random things and explore, and I spend every second of the 3 hours doing just that. So quests might be subjective in length, but there's no shortage of new gameplay for all playstyles. According to the devs, you will have the opportunity to play alongside your character from the main game as a companion. We didn't get to experience this in the preview event, however, they did confirm that this is a feature, and I gotta say, I was pretty excited to hear that. They confirmed that you will get to use your character with the abilities and cosmetics to fight alongside you. So even though this expansion is exclusive to playing as Sotlek, your main character doesn't just go away. They'll still be there fighting with you. I know one of the biggest requests from the community was to have more Na'vi in the fight against the RDA. That happens very little. You get a small taste of it during the second DLC, but overall it's definitely lacking. It will be very exciting to see the extent of how much you'll have this as an option. It won't be 100% of the time type of thing, at least I don't think, mostly because there are story beats that wouldn't make sense if your character is just awkwardly tagging along with you. So I imagine it will be during certain missions, or maybe even while you're not on a specific mission. Hopefully more details on this system is released before launch, but at the very least, you can take comfort in knowing that your character will still exist, and also they are aware that this has been something requested from the community. So I'm optimistic that we'll see more overall Na'vi joining the fight. Fingers crossed. You'll also have Ile, Sotlek's Ikran, to assist you in battle. This happens a little in the earlier DLCs. There's a skill that enables your Ikran to assist. However, it is said that this will be a more significant part of your combat experience, so it should help you feel like you're not entirely alone in the fight. The third-person update came December 5th and was a free update. It also came with New Game Plus, which you will not need any of the DLCs to access. It's a seamless transition between first and third person, so even if you prefer to play in first person still, you can definitely continue to do so in this new DLC. You will come across a few scenarios where you're pushed back into first person, like when soothing an animal or swimming, so there are some moments where you are reminded that the game is still built with first person in mind. But overall, the new animations and just simply being able to see your character, honestly, is a nice benefit. There is no real need or benefit to playing in one or the other. It's entirely up to what you prefer, and both work equally in this new DLC. Sotlek is a very important character in the main game. If you played it, you're familiar. If not, he's like a mentor for you in the game. He relates to you because he's also the last of his clan, the Turong clan. They were destroyed in the Battle of the Hallelujah Mountains, which is the climax of the first Avatar movie. Since this DLC follows the Fire and Ash movie themes, it is supposed to be darker, and a key theme is vengeance. So choosing Sotlek is really fitting from that perspective. I know a lot of people might question why you aren't just playing as your character, but the themes are more fitting to this character's background and his story. It also allows you to tell a more complete story from a narrative standpoint. When you're the player character, sometimes it has to be vague with writing story because so many different people are going to be playing as that character. When it's one pre-identified person or character, there's way more concreteness, if that's even a word, that you can implement. So I'm personally excited about it because he's a really rich character, and this gives them more chance to build that up. It's likely to play more as a traditional single-player game, narrative-driven, rather than an open-world RPG. The world will be more hostile, which is crazy because the game was already pretty hard, But Sotlek's background is that he's an elite warrior, so you'll have new skills and abilities to help deal with that. You'll be able to perform finishers. He has a new ability called Warrior Senses, which ties into his status as an elite warrior in lore. He is legitimately one of the best fighters known on Pandora, so it's fitting that he has this OP ability. In addition to that, he has a slow-mo ability and improved Na'vi senses. Again, this is because he's just a more complete and skilled fighter, so all these improvements are meant to signify that from a character standpoint. But all that also means your character won't have these abilities. At least for now, these new abilities appear to be exclusive to Sotlek, and it's not confirmed whether or not you'll be able to play as Sotlek in the main part of the game after it's over. But you will not be able to play as your character in this DLC, so just something to keep in mind. This new DLC will act slightly different than the previous. The last two have two completely separate areas that you'll load into. This one takes the main area of the Kinglor Forest and burns it down. As part of the story, both in the game and the movie, the Ash Clan is meant to bring complete destruction. So instead of creating a new area, it takes what you know and love, the beautiful landscapes of the Kinglor Forest, and it burns it all down. Home Tree has been taken over by the RDA and the Ash Clan, and you'll encounter old facilities that have been repurposed and new ones in the area. It'll play more off of what it did in the DLCs, where you'll have the ability to take down certain camps to affect what happens at other camps. For example, if you destroy a small camp's communication tower, they can't call for reinforcements at the larger base. There will be more of that going on in this world. The fire itself presents an environmental danger that'll actually hurt you and that you'll have to navigate around. And as you go through the story and side missions, the world will progressively change, responding to your actions. So it'll be a more dynamic map and it'll change as you go. They've added a new sub-region, the Ravines, so there will be some new areas to explore that isn't just totally destroyed. It is said to be built with movement and traversal in mind, either on foot or on the back of a dire horse. The overall idea is to make things more intense. So in general, you'll be facing off against tougher enemies. As I mentioned, Sotlek's new abilities are meant to help deal with that. You'll see some new amp suits. That's been a regular addition with each of the DLCs, and they'll continue to get tougher with different abilities in this one. You'll fight against these robo-dogs, which come from the comics, so it's cool to see that part of the lore being brought in. They are a lot faster and more mobile than the RDA targets, so it definitely presents a different feel for enemies that you'll be facing off against. Then there is the Ash Clan. So in the preview, it was basically set up where I got to do two main missions. One was to experience the Ash Clan mini-boss, which you see in the trailer, and the other was to experience the Fireback Mastodon boss fight. So the slice of what I experienced was pretty limited, but as far as I could tell, the Ash Clan will be specialty enemies. They won't be strictly boss fights, but they won't just be all over the place the same way that the RDA is, at least from what I played. That very much could not be the case on different missions. But the whole idea is that they are a much tougher enemy. They move like you, they also use RDA weapons. They too are elite warriors, so they are being treated that way in the game. You won't be able to one-shot them or do stealth takedowns on them, but you will be forced instead to use your skills and just out-duel them in a close battle. They definitely feel different from fighting the other enemies, and you'll see them appear in non-boss battle formats while fighting other RDA, but also like the one in the trailer, there are going to be ones that are more isolated fights too. My guess is that the lower levels or the ranking fighters will be the ones that you come across regularly in the world, and the elite fighters will be the ones that you're in an isolated or more traditional boss fight style with. Besides them as a boss fight, you'll also encounter some other boss fights, which is another thing the main game was sort of missing out on. In the mission I got to play, it was to free this Fireback Mastodon that the RDA had taken control of. I really enjoyed this style of boss battle. It combined most of what you do in the game, so it had some dynamic elements beyond just shoot it with as many bullets as you can. They incorporate the puzzle element, there are waves of enemies in between objectives. They incorporate the platforming, which is very much a regular part of this game, and you'll utilize the whole arena, basically, to complete your objective. You have to dodge this thing's giant attack. It was just really well put together. It was even really enjoyable watching the RDA soldiers try to take this thing down and watching the Fireback Mastodon just do my job for me. It was very enjoyable, and it certainly added a new feel to these boss fights, which previously were mostly fighting really tough amp suits. This one felt very different in a good way. These were the only 2 boss battles that I got to experience, but it is a point of emphasis for them to add this because the community was asking for it. So I'm pretty optimistic about more of these types of fights in the full DLC. As I mentioned while talking about Sotlek, a lot of the new combat abilities are tied to this character's story. The biggest one probably being Warrior Sense. This new ability, when you activate it, will give you increased damage output. It will give you temporary immunity to damage as well, and it will give you increased XP. And it will enable you to keep your Na'vi senses activated to highlight weak spots. XP can be used to further upgrade your warrior senses in the skill tree, so you'll have different ways you can improve upon this ability even more so. It will have a meter that you need to fill up by performing finishers, dealing or taking damage, or just taking down RDA in general. And then you'll be able to activate it with a push of a button. Takedowns will be another ability that you can perform. It won't just be more animations either. You'll actually be able to perform stealth-based takedowns now, so it really adds to your ability to play in a stealthy playstyle. And they won't just be stealth-based either. You can use them as an effective way to finish off more difficult enemies faster. The takedowns themselves can be upgraded and improved in your skill tree. For example, performing one can give you health back with the right upgrade. Sotlek will also have the ability to go into slow-mo. As part of his elite warrior status, he sees things slower. So this is a separate ability from your warrior sense. You'll be able to use them both at the same time or separately. You'll also have advanced Na'vi senses compared to what your character has in the main game. Essentially, it's meant to help improve stealth gameplay, so it makes it easier to track things. All of these new mechanics could have been tossed on your character, but I definitely appreciate that it's weaved into the story. Either way, the new mechanics definitely make you feel more powerful, which to me is always fun. Unfortunately, though, your character won't ever be as powerful as Sotlek, which means I don't think you get these abilities on your character even after it's over, which I guess is lore accurate. Sotlek is truly meant to be like the most powerful. Each DLC brought some new weapons. There's at least one that I'm looking forward to that I saw in the trailer. I didn't get my hands on it, but certainly there's going to be a few more. The most notable one is Sotlek's knife, but this one acts more as an ability that you'll be able to improve upon in the skill tree. So it adds another layer to melee combat, which was limited to just a punch before. There is a new weapon upgrade system. You won't have the same freedom to craft weapons in this DLC. Instead, there is a more streamlined way to upgrade your weapons. I was very limited in what I got to experience with this, but from my understanding is that it works like a weapon tier system, where you can essentially purchase a weapon upgrade with a specific resource, rather than use resources to craft your weapon like in the main game. Anyway, think of it as an easier way to get more powerful. The regular weapon crafting will still exist in the main part of the game and for your character, but for Sotlek's upgrades, you'll use this new weapon system to upgrade his weapons. There's also a new gear system, which I don't believe is just exclusive to Sotlek. This will apply to your character as well, but you'll be given additional benefits for having a completed gear set. So it's just another way to further become more powerful and give the completionists a reward for their efforts. This DLC is releasing on December 19th, which is the same day as the Fire and Ash movie, and it takes place just a few weeks after the events of the movie. So if you didn't know, the game takes place on a different continent of Pandora compared to the movies, but it is all canon, everything. There's a good bit of references to the movies in the main game, but it's still very separate of a feeling. This DLC will directly play off the themes and the vibes of the movie. It's not a coincidence that it's releasing on the same day. This is entirely by design. I talk about this in more depth in my other video where I share my experiences, but the thing that impresses me most about this whole game, DLCs included, is the tie-in with the lore. It adds an insane amount of depth to the lore of Avatar, and all of it is approved by the man himself, James Cameron. During the panel, the devs were very excited to be able to design things in their own ways, but in that style that was set forth by James Cameron. There are tons of new additions to the Avatar lore. I already noticed small details like the way that camps look with dead animals or bones hanging around. It's not an aesthetic that we have seen at all before in the game. The movie is, 3 hours long at most? And there's only so much storytelling and lore building that can be done with the Ash Clan in that short amount of time. But in this game, you'll be able to immediately expand your time spent learning about this new Na'vi clan. It really does feel like a sequel to the movie, and I haven't seen the movie yet, but strictly based on the aesthetics, the themes, and the new aggressive gameplay mechanics. Now, if we could just get a Way of Water DLC, I would feel complete. The story itself will follow Sotlek as he awakens in a ravaged Kinglore forest, where the RDA and Ash Clan allies have taken over Home Tree. You and your Star Run 2 friends, thus the characters from the main game, will all be scattered, and Sotlek goes on a quest of vengeance to track down his friends and find the ones responsible for all this destruction in his new home. It is meant to have a darker theme, which also coincides with what the movie is supposed to be. So it really leans into that by using Sotlek, who, in my opinion, is perfect for this story. There's probably no better Na'vi to send on a bloodthirsty, trauma-inspired quest for vengeance. That's it for this one. I hope you got something out of this, and I appreciate you watching. I'll see you on the next one.